Welcome, everybody. I hope I'm on practice. Yeah, cool. Okay, we're gonna get started here right away with some of our creators. They're gonna be joining. It's gonna be very exciting. We have a lot of new followers. We hit 10K, so that's exciting. I'm very excited about that. Oh, here comes our creators. Invites out. They're gonna start joining us here. Hello, hello. What's happening, team?
Hello, hello.
How's everybody doing this afternoon, this
Great, you?
morning? Great. I just had like a late brunch breakfast, no
Mm,
coffee, but that is a-okay. So yeah,
Doing pretty well. What about you, Olivia?
pretty darn good. Nice day here today, so that definitely is a mood booster. Dom, welcome. How's it going?
Hey Olivia, it's going amazing. Thanks. Yourself?
Very good, very good. Okay, we're starting here today with a new segment, and we hit 10K followers, so that's so exciting. Congratulations, everybody.
congrats, everybody.
So exciting. We're so happy that all of our followers are joining us on this journey. And today we're talking about how to break into tech. So hopefully for everybody new that's here, you'll get to see kind of the journey that our creators kind of took to get into their way of tech and what the day looks like. We do this every, what day is it? I always forget the day. Wednesday. We do it every Wednesday at 11:30 Eastern time. So feel free to join us and follow our account for more information about tech. So we'll jump right into it today. So what is the best way to break into tech? Let's start with Dweez on this one.
Yeah, the best way to break into tech. For me personally, I haven't worked for a tech company like Dom and Ziad have, like you are engineers. I didn't break into tech that traditional way. I would say for me it was, again, I was still in my learning process, right? But I guess I reached a point where my knowledge was enough, let's say, that I started creating content. So I went more in the non-technical side of tech in that regards. I was making content about tech. So it's not your traditional route to go and get into tech. Most people, I think, yeah, you learn like you specialize in a certain field, right? You learn data sciences, data analytics, software engineering, game development, and from there on, you pass the coding. You go, yeah, you learn that your technical skills. You go to the coding interview, the tech interview, sorry, and you get interviewed, and you pass the if you pass the interview, you get a job. But for me, it wasn't that traditional route. It looked a bit different, and yeah, that's my what I'm trying to say is that there's many different ways you can go about it. There is, I wouldn't say there's only one way you can get it done. There are different routes you can take.
Definitely. I agree. There's a lot of different ways that you can break into tech, whether it's self-learning through boot camp or like even through a university course. So there's tons of different ways. Yeah, let's hear how you kind of broke into tech. Let's hear a story on that.
Yeah, sure. So my experience was I was generally just like interested in the idea of computer science after like searching what I actually wanted to do, like post high school, post college kind of thing. And essentially like I realized that there was a lot of like resources that I could just do from my laptop. Like there wasn't like anything like I didn't need to go to like a physical course or anything like that. There was lots of like YouTube videos online just to like get like fundamentals out the way, and things like Codecademy where it was like online courses that you could just do for the most part just to like see if that's the sort of thing that you like, which I think is super important. Like if you want to into tech, you need to be like passionate about it. Um, so I took a couple of like just online courses and learned just like very fundamental concepts about like software engineering in general, which, like you said, that can be done through courses or boot camps or whatnot just to like get started. And I think what was really important for me was like building a lot of side projects so that I could like build up like my own kind of confidence in a lot of these technologies that I was learning. And after I spent a while just building side projects on my own, like on the side of like school and other things like that, just so I can like learn a little bit more and understand what it's like to actually build like bigger things, which is what you would do at a typical company. And once I had kind of like built up a good amount of these side projects, like put on GitHub, put on my resume, that sort of thing, that's when I was able to like start applying for jobs, for internships, for things like that. Obviously, that's like a very summarized version of it, but essentially, like learning fundamentals, then building up your confidence is like the number one way I would recommend to like break through initially.
Definitely, great answer. Let's pop Dom for this one. So how did you kind of break into tech, Dom?
Thanks, Olivia. So my story was I was always interested into technology and maths and everything, and kind of going into that field seemed a bit obvious to me. I went to a computer science college, got a degree there, and even I got my first job even while I was a student there, my first coding job, and then I just continued that path. I would say for me it was a special situation because I'm originally from Croatia. College is free there, so I'm sure people in the US think way more about where will they go to the college and if they will go at all, just because it costs a lot of money. And yeah, when it's free, it's easier. It's easier to make a decision and think less, especially if you're like a guy. You're 18 years old and yeah, you just want to have fun. So yeah, that was my road, and it definitely doesn't have to be the only way to break into tech. I know many self-taught developers. I know people who finished online courses, finished boot camps, etc. So there are many options. I would recommend college only if you are thinking about going to college anyway, and then pick college because you will not only learn coding, but you will learn much more about computers, architectures, about the internet, about even electronics, about math. Like you'll know knowledge will just in your problem solving mindset will just be on a different level if you go to the college. But that's only if you plan to go to college anyway, or if you're like, I don't know, 18, 19, 20. But if you've already finished some other college, or if you've, I don't know, in mid, late 20s, I wouldn't recommend going to college because it takes too much time. It's probably going to be super expensive, and I don't know, you'll start coding after 4 years. Much better option if you consider college at that point is a boot camp because it's tens, if not hundreds times cheaper than college. You learn everything you need to know to get your first job, and you'll probably get a job. I don't know. You'll finish a boot camp in 6 to 9 months, and a couple of months later you'll get a job. So that's by far the best option. Practicum offers amazing boot camps, so if you're interested into that, just check them out because yeah, like that's almost 100% certainty that you'll learn everything you need and get a job. But if you're not for that, you can't afford it or you don't want to afford it, then just there are many online courses. I wouldn't recommend just randomly going through YouTube videos because there's way too much and different teachers have different styles of teaching. So pick one, find a great teacher on Udemy, pay like $20 or $30 for that course, and that should be fine. So yeah, I mean, depends on your situation. There's all like we could talk about it for hours and hours, but it's just summarize it in short as much as possible.
Definitely. Great answer. That was like a really great overview of like how the different avenues that you can go and like your different options that are available for everybody. So we do have a question in the here. We actually have a couple. I'm going to start with one and then we'll go back to ours and then we'll come back. So feel free to pop all your questions in the chat and we'll get to them at some point. So the main question, and I feel like everybody here is probably very concerned about the layoffs in tech. So I just want to touch on that. What do you guys think about the layoffs, and can you still get into tech, even though there's all these tech layoffs happening, especially like with Twitter? So does anybody want to answer and jump into that question right away? Does anybody have an answer for this one?
Yeah, I could jump in. I live in an area where like I know like a lot of people personally that have been laid off, whether it's been like by Twitter, Amazon, or Facebook, and it's like it's obviously like made it a tougher job market to an extent, but that doesn't mean like you can't break into tech or something like that, like in these recent companies, in these recent like layoffs, I mean. And the reason for that is because like usually what happens during these times and like what I've seen happen like with a lot of these friends that I know that have been like unfortunately laid off is that it's not like people are kind of like sitting at home and no longer working in tech for the most part. It's just that there's a lot more like movement between companies. Like, for example, people like I know a lot of people who have been laid off at Meta in particular, and they ended up like working like changing jobs just to a different company. And usually it's companies that are hiring and are like able to afford to hire like during these times. So a good example of this is like usually startups. Like startups usually aren't really as prone to like the economic like situations because they have like private funding and usually their own way of like making decisions about like hiring people and stuff like that. So I think there's just like more of a shift in like where people are working. Like more people are basically jumping around between jobs right now. So I would actually argue that like a lot of companies are actually increasing their hiring during this time because all of a sudden they see that there's like a lot of these talented people like on the job market. So they start actively like pursuing, like actively accelerating hiring in that perspective. So I think that like obviously it sucks when there's like layoffs and stuff like that, but at the same time, sometimes there's like hidden opportunities if you kind of look out for them. So I would say it's kind of like a bittersweet situation if you make the best of it.
Definitely. Thank you so much for the tiny dinosaur, and that's awesome. I love when they like
Yeah.
show up glasses or like a cowboy hat on your face.
Thank
Um,
you for the popcorn, by the way, Mr. WebDev.
yeah, great touch there. I feel like as well within the tech market, like even though we're seeing like firsthand these big companies that are laying off people, there's so many little companies out there that can like match or have high pay scales as well that are still looking for that talent. And I totally agree that there's a ton of people looking out there to seeing all these layoffs happening, and it's like, okay, I need to go scoop up these people. Like the more this is the time I because this is when people. We'll go to Dweez.
Sorry, Olivia, you cut off. I couldn't hear what you the last bit.
I was just asking if Dweez or Dom wants to jump in playoff conversation here.
Well, I
I can.
think. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'll
I
go.
can jump in.
Sure,
Or
Or do
you.
you want to jump in?
I'll jump in first. No,
sure.
I don't. I agree with Ziad. I think especially with the fact that um, these are bigger companies, right? I don't think that you will find, for example, a situation where we'll reach a point where, oh, we don't need engineers anymore, we don't need developers anymore. There's always going to be some company, a small business, someone who may need a developer, even if it's for example to build a very basic blog, right? Like small things like these tech skills are just, it's always going to be relevant. I think we are developing, technology and development go hand in hand. So I don't believe we are ever going to reach a point where we don't need developers. Even despite with all going on right now, I still think there's a lot of opportunities that come with being a developer. Yeah.
Definitely. Dom, do you want to jump
Yeah.
in?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Dweez. I agree with both Dweez and Ziad. And yeah, thanks, Mr. WebDev, for all the gifts. They're lovely. I wanted to add that, yeah, everything they said is 100% true. But you shouldn't be concerned with those layoffs or current state on the market, because the only thing you need to decide is whether you want to become a developer or not, and that's the only question. If you want to become a developer, then nothing else matters, because it's not like a skill that you will get in 2 days, use for 2 weeks, and then stop. It will be a skill that you will use for years and years, maybe even decades. Who knows? And you shouldn't care that much about layoffs, about recessions or anything, because if you invest in yourself, if you invest in your skills, who knows, maybe there will be a probability that you will get a job a bit harder, but you will still get it, and then we'll go out of recessions. Many other companies will hire. You will have the right knowledge, and you will be able to jump to another company and get, I don't know, 2 times more money, 3 times more money. So you never know. And it's more advice about life in general. I don't think you should be blocked by the situations around the world. Just decide if you want to do something or not. If you want to do something and it's long term, just do it, because otherwise you can always wait for your whole life. Oh, it was COVID before. Oh, now we had a recession. Oh, something will always go on. So just make a decision, do it if you want to do it, and don't care about what's happening outside. It matters what's happening inside you.
Definitely. If you look at the stock market, actually, because I did a class on this in university when I went, the stock market always goes down, and there's always a peak at the end of it. It doesn't keep going down forever. It will pop back up at some point in time, which means like there'll be more jobs in the market eventually. So it might not be now, but it might be like maybe tomorrow, or maybe in a week, or a month, or a year. But these skills are so important, and you're going to want to acquire them. And the earlier that you can do it, the earlier you can break in the tech, and the earlier you can start changing your career and have a fulfilling career at the end of the day. Great answers. Amazing. Fantastic. Okay. We'll jump in and answer a couple more questions in the chat here, because we have some really good questions today. So I saw one about software engineering back here. Let me just look for it. So I think everybody in the group is a software developer, but I'll let you guys touch on this. And is software development just limited to app, web, and web dev? Does somebody want to jump in on this question?
Yep. Basically, software development. Of course, you hear the most about app development. You hear the most about web development. But when you think of like software engineers, it's not. It's not only that. Like that whole scope is much broader. You can also include, not sure how 100% correct that is, but you can include like anything you do with code can be classified as a software engineer. So you can do, I don't know, embedded systems, you can do IoT, you can do gaming, besides of course that just classic like mobile apps and web and desktop. But you can also take a different route, and with that, out of that code, you can create content and help other people. So you can create courses, you can write books around it, you can create, I don't know, any sort of content, blog, etc. So you're definitely not just limited to web apps.
Definitely. Anybody else want to add that, or do you guys feel like Dom have encapsulated it really well?
I think it's what Dom said. I think that the whole engineering process, it's like the building of a system, the process of building a system, and that includes code as well. So if you would ask me, it's what Dom said. It goes bigger than just app development and web development. It can go beyond that as well. I think as long as you're building some type of system with your code, it's gonna sound controversial, but it's technically software engineering. We don't call game development software engineering, for example, but we're still working with software.
Definitely. Yeah, do you want to jump in there, or do you feel good?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty similar to what these other guys said. Like, usually when a company's hiring for a software engineer, they expect you to just like know the fundamentals of code and like be able to solve problems. So like when you join that company, like lots of different types of problems will come up. Sometimes you'll be working with web development, sometimes you'll be working with maybe more like databases and like more heavy backend development. There's some roles that are even classified as site reliability, which is like more infrastructure development, they call it. So it's like making sure that your systems are working and like monitoring them and stuff like that. So the idea is like, as a software engineer, you should just be like a problem solver and have a pretty good fundamental of working with code. So like expect anything to be thrown at you, basically.
Definitely. Great answer. We see that there's a couple more questions in the chat there. We're just going to and continue with our topic of how to text. I see a couple of those there. And yes, Ziad is the guy of our TikTok videos. He is. All of these guys are stars of our TikTok channel. So yeah, send them likes, send them comments. We're always welcome to hear things that you guys want to see too. So feel free to drop them in the chat. So jumping into our next question on the topic of breaking into tech. Do you guys want to share your experience of working in the tech world? Like, is it a really positive experience? Is it a big change from maybe what you've done in the past? Who wants to jump in first on this? Maybe Ziad, since Dom started the last one.
Sure. I mean, I love working in tech. I work primarily as a full stack developer to an extent. So I work on like the product side of things. Like I actually build UI and build the backend as well for products at the current company that I'm at. And it's super fun because when I went to college for computer science, and like in college and even in a lot of these courses or boot camp settings, like they'll teach you a good amount, which is very important, like fundamental information that you need to have. And in college in particular, you're going to learn a lot of like the theory behind like why things work the way they do, similar to kind of what Dom said. Like you'll learn a lot of architecture and different fundamental concepts that are like considered lower level of programming. But while that was fun, like I really enjoyed getting into the industry and working in like a tech environment, because you get to like work alongside a lot of other people that have, been through similar experiences and learned a lot of like the same fundamentals. But all of a sudden you're like building things that actually have like real world impact, which is super fun. Like the products that me and like the team and the company work on, like the code that I write is technically being seen by like a lot of people around the world, like people that I've never met, which is like super empowering, I think. So like that aspect of it is really awesome. And then I just really enjoy the tech environment. Like, I'm sure we'll delve into this like a little bit later, but like just the idea of software engineering and like the meetings that you have and the sit downs that you have with your coworkers to like solve a particular problem. Like I think that's all super fun, and I'd like enjoy the aspect of working with a team to solve a bigger problem, which is mostly what you're going to be doing at like any tech company. So it's super fun to me, and yeah, I definitely wouldn't trade it for anything.
Definitely. Great answer. Tech is a cool field to be in, honestly. There's a lot of cool perks. Dom, do you want to answer this?
Yeah, sure. I must also say that I really love tech environments. When I compare them to some other fields, it's just I have a feeling that people often just have fun and build things. Like even those meetings can be like really funny. People throw jokes all the time, so it's rarely. I mean, sometimes bad things happen, like production goes down, and then it can become a bit more serious. But even then, it's like it's not terrible. It's not the end of the world, because for most of the apps, I mean, the app is down. Like nobody's gonna die or anything. We'll boot it up again in a couple of minutes, so it's not the end of the world. And even people can be a bit stressed about it. I must say that it's way less stress than when I hear some other fields like, I don't know, law or finance, or especially like doctors, where literally somebody else's life is dependent on you. And for us, like, there's not a lot of stress, because it's not like you're building that app which user sees, which is called like a production app. You have multiple copies of that app and multiple levels of testing and everything. So it takes a lot of effort to break that production app. While I don't know, for doctors, they only have one. They only have one try. So I would say, because of all those different environments, also in finance, like if you mess something up for your client, which pays a lot of money, like you messed it up and you can't revert it. In coding, you can revert everything. You have multiple environments, and that also like puts below the levels of stress. And I also love sharing, knowledge sharing. It's really strong in developers community. So you all probably know about Stack Overflow and all the other like different forums, platforms where engineers just share their knowledge. So it's not like one company does something and then keeps it for themselves. Like, no, everybody shares everything. If you take a look at some of the biggest frameworks like React, Facebook made that framework and then made it publicly available for everyone to use for free. And that's why everything and the whole tech industry is growing so fast, just because most of the things are free. Most of the biggest, most complex tools are completely free, and people are using them. People are sharing knowledge, and you have a network of millions and tens of millions. I don't know what's the total count, but probably even like hundreds of millions of developers. Probably 100 million developers around the world that basically collaborate together and work. My question is like, I'm thinking, what would happen if we do things like that in other fields, like science, like finance, and everything? How fast would all the other fields grow if people cooperate rather than just be a closed company of like 10 or 100 people and just keeping their knowledge for themselves? So that's the reason why tech grows so fast, because we share everything and everything is free. 100%. Like, the tech environment so far is like the best working environment I've ever seen. And also because developers are so needed, everybody is just trying to push the better benefits, and it's like fight between companies who will have the best benefits, unlimited vacation, bigger salaries, more cooler stuff in the office or in the remote, whatever you prefer. It's really flexible, and definitely a nice environment to be in.
Tech is a sharing and caring environment. That's what I heard. Amazing. That was a great in-depth explanation, Tom. Thank you so much. I'm going to get up here to let my dog out because she's crying at me. So I'll ask a question. In-depth explanation, Tom. Thank you so much. I'm going to get up here to let my dog out because she's crying at me. So I'll ask a question. In-depth explanation, Tom. Thank you so much. I'm going to get up here to let my dog out because she's crying at me. So I'll ask a question, then I'm going to dip off first. Before I go, do you have anything you want to add to this combo? Do you want feeling good about it?
Yeah, I mean, this is personally like being a content creator. That is my experience with tech. So, yeah, I think what I like the most about these live sessions is like I get to hear from Dom and Ziad and you as well that yeah, just experiences you have had. I genuinely learn a lot of things. So if everyone out there, every week we are here, join because you learn a lot. I'm learning a lot. If I can, so can you.
I'm also learning a lot. Okay, next
Yeah.
question. Is it too late to go into tech? Dom, I'll throw this at you and I'll be right back. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Olivia. So John Doe, you asked about is it too late to go to tech? I wouldn't say it's too late. So it doesn't matter that you work in investment banking. Like there is maths there, so that kind of like problem solving mindset you've developed in the finance sector will definitely help you. And it's not too late. Like, even if you think you're maybe too old, like I know. So one woman, she broke into tech in her 50s. And people are breaking into tech regularly in 30s, quite often in 40s, but you can hear stories in 50s. So it's definitely not too late. That's from one side, and from other side, is it like too late? Maybe it's not gonna be needed in the future. That era will end. Well, it won't, because tech is still quite underdeveloped, and tech will just continue to grow and grow and grow in the future. Like, new technologies are coming. Everything is still pretty basic, no matter how we think that it is advanced. But metaverses are knocking on our doors. All the cool augmented reality, virtual reality, crypto, like everything is just coming, and who knows what will come after that. So it's gonna be wild, and tech will be, and developers will be even more needed than now. Even though we think we're at the peak, we're not. But like, still, we're still pretty, I would say, it's still pretty early. So just decide, like, why do you want to go into tech? If you want to go just for, I don't know, that lifestyle or something like that, then maybe it's not the best option. But if you're really interested into that, if it's fun to you, try. I would say, like, try watching some simple online tutorials, playing around with the code, maybe even take a simple course and see if that's interesting to you. If it is, then go, but don't go just for the lifestyle, because it will take a lot of effort. It's not easy to break into tech. If you want to do it, then it will be easy for you. You're going to do it, but otherwise it will be a painful year or two, and then a painful other 5, 10, 20 years, no matter how long we'll stay. So yeah, but to answer your question, it's not late. Yeah, if you want to go, just go.
Definitely. You need to be passionate for that you're choosing. Otherwise, you're going to hate it. I've had a couple friends that have gone into careers that are like high paying, but they hate it and they go back to their job. Like, I don't want to do this if I don't like it. And there's always new apps. Like if you think about it, everything is going online lately. Like literally everything. There's new apps popping up left, right, and center. And who are the people that are running it? The software engineers, the data analysts, the data scientists. So it's always a good time to jump in, especially now because everything is moving online, and you need people in the background that keep going.
Yeah.
So you want to jump into this conversation here?
Yeah, to answer this particular question, like I have a couple friends that are in investment banking or were in investment banking like in college and decided to like switch out. And I think like investment banking and a lot of these other like STEM fields are actually like pretty good fields to like come from into tech because kind of like Dom said, you already come in with like this problem solving mindset, and usually like a lot of these fields are pretty tough as well. Like if you work in investment banking, I'm guessing you work like pretty long hours and you're a pretty hardworking person in general, just based on like the industry trends. And to go in with like that kind of mentality and mindset into tech, like it's not only that it's not too late, but you're actually going to be like probably pretty successful like in the tech field. So I would definitely like if you think that this is really what you're passionate about, like make the switch, like at least like go in and try it for a little bit. Like you have an investment banking background, so like the worst thing that can happen is that you'll try it, it won't be for you, and you'll just switch right back, and like you won't regret that you tried it. So I think like definitely like try it out, and it's never really too late to like make a switch into tech in particular as a field.
Definitely. Dweez, I'm going to throw this to you to add to this conversation.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Ziad and Dom. I think it can never be too late to get into tech. If you're transitioning from a different field, though, it may be hard. It may be the hardest thing you do, because it's a lot of self-regulation need to go into it, especially if you are, yeah, learning with your own resources. Well, not your resources, but just learning online. Let's say, like Ziad did Codecademy. I took Codecademy courses as well, and it was not easy. The actual coding, yeah, the learning is easier than the fact that you need to set time apart, because if you're making the decision to get in tech, you need to understand that a certain amount of time needs to go to it every day or 5 times a week at least, if you want to get there as quick as possible. But I think just go for it. You should just go for it. Don't waste too much time. Don't think, I'm not smart enough. There's a lot of objections that may come up, and the best time to get in tech is now. Like, there's no other way around it. It's just gotta go for it.
Yeah. If you put your mind to anything, you can do it. That is a quote that we are living by today.
Yeah.
I see we have a question in the chat. We are going to answer that right now for you. So I think it was about competitive coding. I'm going to throw this one to Ziad. Do you want to state the question? And if you have an answer to go around with it, and then we'll throw that through our creators and see what they have.
Yeah. I think the question was, what do you, what do you think about competitive programming? And I think, yeah, he had asked this a while back when we were talking about like different ways to break into tech. And I think, yeah, like competitive programming is definitely one of those things that I think I've even mentioned in like lives before, where you could do things like hackathons and things like that, so you can like start building up your resume. And like if you want to work at a tech company, it's one of those things that you could bring up like in an interview as like experience that you've had. Competitive programming is like honestly it's hard. Like I know a couple people who have like done like competitive leak code, for example, and like you need to be very, very good to like succeed in those competitions. But the really cool part about it is that like you don't really need to like win any of those competitions or like go into it all the way just so you can like put it on like a resume. Like it's one of those things where just participating actually means a lot because it means that like you're proactive and you actually have like a genuine interest for like programming in general. I like if you do hackathons on a consistent basis, not only are you like going to be able to put it like on your resume or whatever that you have participated in those events, but you're also going to be like gaining a lot of experience into like building things on the side. Like I mentioned, I spent a lot of time building side projects, and that's how I like like initially built up my resume from zero. And a lot of those hackathons and things like that are really good ways to build those side projects and like learn how to work in a team sometimes. Like there's a lot of like team based competitive programming, so I would definitely recommend it if you're looking for a way to like initially get into tech and also just like gain a little bit of experience without necessarily like trying to get a job right away, because a lot of times obviously like interviewing is hard. Like you have to have some experience for companies to like hire you right off the gate, and a lot of these opportunities show that you're proactive and they give you experience at the same time. So I think yeah, competitive programming is awesome. I've never personally done it, but I know it's like very popular with people who are just starting out.
Yeah, it's always good to just like even dip your toe in to see what it's about. I would say try every opportunity that comes in your field, and I feel like Ziad's on the same with that. The dog in the backyard, she is okay. I just want to. The dog is. Um, Jumping to Dom on this question, do you have anything to say about competitive coding programming?
Well, it is a cool experience, definitely. Competitive programming is cool because it's just another way of gaining experience. You can add it to your resume, so you can learn things there. So if you have the opportunity, go. Why not? Because you usually don't have anything to lose. I mean, it can be a bit stressful and tiring because you sometimes like work and code for like 24 hours straight or something like that in those hackathons. But yeah, like you try it out. Like why not? Like especially when you're in the process of breaking into tech and getting a job. Like almost any experience is a good experience. It doesn't matter if you are building your own projects or doing hackathons. It's a really good experience, especially because when doing a hackathon, you're usually within a team, so it already requires a sort of a cooperation, and it just shows to your future employers that you're motivated and you want to do something. Like you're just trying out stuff, and that's always a plus.
Definitely. Great answer. Louise, I'm going to throw this to you. Anything about like competitive programming that you want to add in on resumes?
Yeah, I think like Ziad and Dom said, like if you are applying for a job, let's say, I think it's really nice that you have this experience purely because of the fact that you're building something in practice. So I think indeed if you have attended several of these events that it may greatly benefit you, not only for job opportunities, but it also develops and shows your skills as a developer as well.
Definitely. So
Yeah.
there's another chat here about iOS and Android. We'll get to that just after this one. This conversation kind of leads into this next question that I have for these guys, which is what advice would you give yourself at the beginning of your career? We're gonna have Louise for this one. Louise, do you want to answer?
Yeah, what advice would I give myself in the beginning? Well, in the beginning, I mean, 3 months in, right? I was coding, writing code, developing, whatever for 3 months. And at that point, if someone were to ask me like, do you know what you're doing? I would say no, purely because I don't know, you have this thing in programming, we call it imposter syndrome. I have had that, like the severe case, like the most severe case of it. And you in your head, you start telling yourself a bunch of stories, right? Especially in the beginning. I'm not good enough for this. I suck at coding. I'll never be a developer. I'm not learning anything. These are all things that you are telling yourself because there's so many information coming in and you don't remember all of it. So if I could tell myself something, give myself an advice, I would just tell myself, yeah, just stop having these thoughts, right? Like you're doing great. I'm learning, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people go through the same process that you in your head you're not learning anything, but it's a process. The becoming a developer is a process, and there is I don't know, maybe Ziad and Dom have experienced this as well. I don't know if you, during your learning process, you had these same thoughts. But this whole complex of I'm not a programmer, I'm not good enough, is just a story you're telling yourself. It's not real. If especially if you've been doing it for a while. I mean there are people out there that have been doing it, been developers for a year, and they'll still tell you that they don't consider themselves good enough. But it's you shouldn't think like that. You should just, especially going back to our previous topics, like prove to yourself that you can do it. Attend competitive programming, attend hackathons, build projects. Like you really have to prove to yourself that you know how to do it. The best way to go around this is by actually building projects.
Definitely build those projects. Great
Yeah.
answer. From Israel, I've experienced it as well. I think everybody has one at some point in time. Ziad, I'm going to throw this question to you. What advice would you give to yourself at the beginning of your career?
Oh, that's such a cool gift. I think, yeah, like similar to Dewey's, like imposter syndrome is a pretty big thing that I had as well. Because I was like pretty self-taught up until like my first couple like professional experiences, and like there was so many like random things that people would talk about that I just like never heard of, and the way that they talked about it made it seem like everybody should know it. So like I'd always have that idea of like, oh, like that's unfortunate, like I'm not as smart as they are or something like that. But what I learned like early on is, yeah, like most people are like that. There's stuff that you just don't know that other people have experienced. And I think the number one advice I'd give myself is to like constantly like be curious about those things. Like if you find something that you don't know about, or something is like something's totally new to you, which like, yeah, that comment Miles of Iron said imposter syndrome is natural because the field advances so fast. That's like very true, because there's things that are just coming out like every day, like new open source projects, new companies pop up, new like engineering standards, stuff like that. So the most important thing is to just like continue like reading into those things. For example, like literally last week there was like a piece of technology that my company was using that apparently everybody knew about except me, and I was just like, I don't know what that is, but that's okay. Like that's like the whole point of like working in this field. And I ended up just going and like reading about it over like a weekend and understanding like what this piece of technology is meant to do and the use cases and stuff like that. So I think like being curious into like how things work goes a long way, because like eventually as you gain more experiences and learn about more things, like you'll become a more successful engineer because of it. So yeah, I think be curious is my number one advice.
Definitely. We just got a flood of new people in. So if you're here and you're new, we're answering questions about how to get into tech. So if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. We're actually here every Wednesday at 11:30 Eastern time. So feel free to jump in and then we answer questions in the chat. And feel free to follow our account, because we do answer a ton of these questions on our account with these amazing creators that we have beside us. So jumping back into this conversation, because this is this amazing conversation that we're having here. I'm going to throw this back to Dom here. So what advice would you give yourself at the beginning of your career? And Ziad, I just want to touch on that. That was a fantastic answer. Like, thank you so much for going into detail about that. I hope that helps everybody in the chat get their footing, and like you're not alone in this journey here. Dom, take it away.
Thanks, and thanks for the gifts. They are amazing. Happy to be in the lead now. So what advice would I give myself? Kind of the biggest thing that happened to me and changed the course of my coding career was getting a mentor. So cool gift. The biggest change was getting a mentor. Although I got it as a part of my job in one of the companies, so the company was amazing. They gave me like 2 different mentors, which was insane, and I just learned so much. They told me all the things. What should I do? What should I learn? They reviewed my code. They basically told me, because they were like super experienced and passionate with teaching, but also like amazing senior engineers, and they told me everything I need to know to be a great developer. So if you can afford that, I highly suggest getting a mentor, because the field, I would definitely suggest that to me, because getting a mentor is a cheat code, and getting a mentor is just like something that the person have been learning for like 5, 10, maybe even 20 years. Like you can get that knowledge in just a couple of sessions with him, which is just insane. And it's literally like a cheat code. Yes, you pay. It can be a bit expensive, maybe, but when you look at it long term, like the amount of money you will start earning because of all those advices will be much higher than, I don't know, a couple of hundreds of dollars or whatever you will spend on mentors. So yeah, that's definitely an advice for me, because I'm also at this moment I'm mentoring people, and it's just like it's so much easier for them to break into tech. Not talking about only about that side of coding, because yeah, for coding you need to practice, you need to learn, you have a course and everything, but also that side, for example, guys, we're talking about imposter, just reminding them that things like that are completely normal, that it's okay to not know everything, because even senior engineers don't know everything, telling them all those stories, motivating them and telling them what to do, where to go, what to learn. And it's just like, because when you start learning, you have so many different paths you can choose. Mentor will tell you which is the best path to choose. Obviously, there's always a better path, but that path that mentor will suggest you will be one of the best and easiest paths to get into tech. So yeah, highly suggest a mentor for anything in life. What you want to achieve, if it is possible, it is a cheat code.
Definitely, imposter syndrome is real to read there. Make sure you. Oh, we just hit 100 people that are in the chat. That's so exciting. Thank you all again for just hearing our journey and stuff. We just got a ton of questions in the chat, so feel free to keep like sending them, because they kind of get lost. I saw one that popped up that said, "What is the easiest language to get into in tech?" And I just want you guys to answer that in like a couple sentences, and then we're gonna jump to another question because we're almost out of time. So start with Dwiz, please, at the bottom there. What is the easiest thing to get into tech?
HTML and CSS.
Amazing. Ziad, go ahead.
I would say JavaScript.
JavaScript, right on. Dom, I feel like I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah, like I would agree with Viz, like HTML and CSS, but you're quite limited with it. So then the obvious choice is JavaScript there.
Definitely, great answers, you guys. So let's jump back into this question about how to get into tech and how to break into that field. So this is kind of a double joint question here. We have 10 minutes left, so maybe answer in like 2 to 5 minutes if you can. But what roles can you be within the company, and then how can you grow within your company? Just pause there. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. It paused on my side for whatever reason. I'll start with Dom on this one. So what roles can you get into within a company, and how can you grow within your company?
What roles can you get? Do we look at specifically like software engineering roles here, like different levels? Yeah, different levels of software engineering. Sure. So I would say that like the kind of the lowest role you can get is an internship, where you just come there for learning for a couple of months. But if we take a look at those roles, it depends on the company, but I would say it starts with a junior developer, and that's you're still learning a lot. You learn really fast. You're growing really fast, and usually juniors have 0 to 1 to 2 years of experience. Then in between you have like mid-level engineers, and they have, I don't know, up to 5, even something 6 or 7 years of experience. Then it goes to seniors, which have like 5, 6, 7+ years of experience, roughly. And many actually developers stop at that point, but you can go into different routes. So you can go more into something like being a tech lead in a way that you can. It's, I would say, above senior. So you need to not only code, but you also need to manage a team, talk with different teams, talk with project managers, talk with designers, and you're not just coding anymore. Then you're also managing people with coding, or you can purely go into like engineering, and that would be something like a tech lead. So you do only coding, but not only for your team. You do coding like for wider company. And yeah, you have like different levels. I don't know, in Facebook, Google, and companies like that. But I would say junior, mid, senior, and then you either stay there or go into direction of more into managing people and coding, or more into just coding and solving engineering problems.
Definitely great answer. Okay, we'll jump to Ziad for this next one. Same question. What roles can you be in within a company, and then how can you grow within that company?
Yeah, I think Dom covered most of like the engineering roles specifically. I want to also bring up that like a lot of people actually end up going into a couple other. There's like a couple other roles like within a team. Like usually on a typical software engineering team, you're gonna have like the engineers, and then you'll have what's known as like product managers. And essentially, like what those people are like usually they'll also have like a tech background or a CS degree, or know how to code to an extent, but they'll be more focused on like the product itself that the team is working on. So like for example, if the team is working on Instagram, let's say that like Instagram is just like one team and they're building the app. The engineers are the ones that are actually like typing the code and making sure that everything works and stuff like that. And the product manager is essentially the person that's like defining like what features should we build, and like making sure that they're talking to the users and making sure that like everything that we're building actually makes sense. So a lot of the times, like when you see new features being released by big companies, like for example, something you can wonder is like, why is the Instagram like DM, like when you get a notification, like why is that red, for example? Like that's just like something that somebody had to decide on at some point, right? And the idea is like these product managers, like they're the ones that are thinking about this. They're like thinking about the user experience, and they're like, oh, when someone gets a notification, we want them to like notice it like really fast. So that's why we make it red, because red is like catchy and it indicates that like something is there, right? That's an awesome gift. Thank you for that. So essentially, like that's another role within tech that I just wanted to like bring up, because if you are really passionate about technology and maybe you have like some coding background, but you don't want to like actively be actually doing the coding, but you still like want to work on innovative products and stuff like that, product management is like also another route that you can take, where you're still going to be like working with engineers, because you talk to customers, but then you also talk with engineers and like describe like what we need to build and stuff like that. So that's another role I just wanted to bring up, that I know a lot of people succeed in.
Amazing. Great answer. So enthusiastic. These are amazing. I'm learning so much. I'm learning every day. This is great. Okay, I'll stop talking. We'll go to tweets next. How do you grow a company, and what advice? Well, I guess you can switch up this question too if you want to answer something. But what roles can you play in a company, and then how would you grow within that company? Feel free to switch it up. Go on.
Yeah, I don't have really anything to add to what was already said. As I said earlier, there were many different paths you can take in regards to this. So I think Ziad and Dom answered most of the question already. There was a question I saw earlier. Let me see. Yeah, yeah, it was more. Someone said something related to that. You have a lot of people nowadays that they don't even know how a computer works and things like that. And that's true. Like you can be working in tech and you not by not having technical skills, as I said. I do recommend, however, that you do have technical skills for more for the teamwork aspect of it and communication, because I think it facilitates the teamwork if everyone is on the same page. Let's say, for example, if everyone knows at least like the basics or what they are doing, I think you can the project just goes in a more efficient manner. So yeah, that's what I have to say on that.
Amazing. Those are some great answers, you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time and coming to talk to us about how to kind of break into tech. It's super helpful. I hope everybody learned a lot. Again, we're here every Wednesday. I think I might have said Tuesday in my last shout out. Every Wednesday, 11:30 Eastern time. Feel free to follow our account. We cover a ton of topics on exactly what we're talking about here today. There's just new topics coming every single day. Whatever questions we missed here in the chat, we'll be answering them next week as well. So don't worry, we'll be answering them. Come back for next week and we'll make sure that all those questions are being answered. And if you have any more questions, feel free to drop them in our comments on our TikToks or in the chat right now. We'll mark them down. Creators, do you have anything more to say before we get out of here for the day?
No, just definitely give us a follow and we'll we always make really cool content about like a lot of these questions, honestly. So like if you're curious about more, definitely check out our videos.
Yeah, thank
Amazing.
you so much everyone for being here. If you found it useful, drop some gifts for us, and we'll be back next week.
Yeah, thanks everyone for attention, for gifts, for comments, for everything. Yeah, just follow us. We do a lot of content around this, and yeah, we want to help you break into tech. So yeah, see you in a week.
Perfect. We'll see you in a week. Thanks, everybody.
Ciao.
Bye.